Good morning and welcome, sorry, to the July 27th new generative workshop. I think we're going to start calling them spontaneous writing because spontaneous seems way more fun than generative. So we're going to do that. Randall, nice plot twist. I can't believe I'm AI generated. I thought I was a human and I'm a little disappointed about that. Yeah. Okay, so I'm checking in really quick to make sure that I'm covering what's happening. I think, Lisa, you're coming in from 5:32, right? I'm going to just let that.
The chat said yes.
Okay, good. I was letting that sit for a second because I'm trying to open 5:32 and it is not playing nice this morning. So I know in 5:29, which I've taught a million times, we're just getting to know each other with the discussion boards this week. And that's all there is, which is kind of fun. And it's great to talk about a thing that makes you uniquely you. Maybe my mules make me uniquely me. I don't know. What makes me uniquely me, all of you people who know me?
It's hard to say what makes someone unique. Oh no.
Your smile lights up.
Oh, yeah. All right. For 5:32, we are describing a favorite character's bedroom. And so I think it'd be super fun. I would love to take someone like Katniss and make when she hides in the tree with a tracker jackers below her and like do that as the bedroom. So be as creative as you want in 5:32. You can, you know, a literal bedroom or a place where somebody sleeps or a place where somebody doesn't sleep but is supposed to, or whatever you want. I'm all in. Mentor. Thanks, Suzanne. That was in the chat for anybody who watches the recording. So each class only has discussions this week, but please do hop in there and, when they open up and enjoy what you can do. And this week, as SNHU requires, I'll be responding to all of you. So I look forward to reading what you have and replying to what you write. Let's see, Kevin he's using tuition benefits and he's not in an MFA class this term, but I decided to start the SNHU MFA. So I start on Monday too. And I think it'll really help me be an empathetic teacher as I go through the student side of thing. I have had 3 or 4 phone calls saying, hey, class starts Monday. I'm like, I know. So it's fascinating to see how much support already I get as a student that I wasn't aware was happening for my own students. So that's kind of cool. Any questions for me?
You team lead MFA people or only MA people?
Only MA people, which I feel is lucky because I don't think they would have let me take the MFA if I was team leading in it.
Gotcha.
So, and one of my peers who I team lead with a lot and has team leaded me before in the MA program does team lead in the MFA because she's my team lead in the class I'm taking now. So I guess I'm just kind of lucky that didn't happen. And now I definitely will not ask to have that happen. And I think it's just a little bit like sit up and take notice that my first class is being taught by the associate dean. So I better get it right because, he runs the program.
I just want to know how you juggle teaching 2 classes, taking a class and your workload and looking after your horses and having a life.
The last one I'm having some trouble with.
Okay.
And I'm not doing very well juggling all that. I don't know why I signed up for the MFA, except for I don't feel like my novel will get written unless I give myself something that gives me deadlines. So, but yeah, I think I'm not doing life as well as I could. I don't think I'm being as responsive and friendly as I could. I've had an amazing amount of clients lately. So I've also had so on top of what you said, I'm also reading manuscripts and advising people that way and coaching another person. I've been coaching for a year or so. And yeah, I'm not doing very well balancing life. That's the answer to that.
As long as it's not just me that's having a hard time juggling.
I think everybody here, right? Mm-hmm. Every one of you is having trouble balancing something. And it's because we want so much. And I mean, I think that's what characterizes us as writers is people who really want something, and you'll try to find a way to do it, even if it hurts your work-life balance. So.
What I need to work on.
Well, I did stop doing birch bark and microlit, and I feel like that has bought me a little bit of space and bought me a bunch of positivity that I needed in my life right now. So there's that.
Okay.
Okay, and then so because we don't meet next time, I would like to say for 529, you're going to do your 3 story ideas in module 2. And so when you do those 3 story ideas, you are just giving a scene from a story, which is 1 or 2 paragraphs, and then you're giving like a paragraph summary. It's very small. The whole document should be no more than 4 or 5 pages, 6 at the most. And in that, I can't emphasize enough, when you choose your story that you will draft for module 4, that is the story. It's the only story. And those other story ideas are off the plate for the rest of the course. Last term, I had a couple people write on one of their story ideas for the final project. It's just like, okay, no. So, you know, just read my announcements, please. And I try to guide people through those. So announcements are a really important space. And for Jenna and Lisa, Randall, Suzanne, Kirsten, who's not here, and Jesse's, who's not here, run this amazing POV Dipped in Dreams Discord site. And if you haven't been invited there, Randall, if you, or Suzanne or whoever, if you want to invite people, please put up the link. I wanted my Slack site to be like this, but I don't, as you can see, I have a poor work-life balance. And so the energy isn't the same in the Slack site, but please come to the Slack site. I'll send the classes an invite there, but where the action is over in Discord. And so I really want to encourage you to get involved. There is a writing community. Like I started this as trying to create writing community for people at SNHU, because SNHU has a hard time doing that for you at a really personal level, although I think they're trying. But boy, you know, Randall, Suzanne, Jesse, and Kirsten are kaboom writing community, all the best things. Right? Okay, what am I forgetting? All you smart people.
Well, when you do your 3 stories, the one that you pick, you're gonna beat it to death. So make sure that it's the one you like. And even if your classmates don't pick that one, pick the one that you wanna spend your time on.
That is such great advice. Yes, I completely agree with that. Hey, Randall, if you've got Lori on Discord, just tell her I don't see her coming back in yet.
All right, I'll shoot her a message.
Thank you. Elisa, sorry.
Okay. My advice would be to really pay attention and be as helpful as you can with the feedbacks. So, for example, the feedback I got on one of my 3 choices was, "This is badass." And that was the end of that. And that's really not very helpful.
Oh, and if you're ever in a Dr. Max class, use resources outside of when you give
expert resources. Yeah.
Every single time you write anything, use an outside resource, except for your story.
Yeah, she's right. Yeah, and you can see in the general questions discussion board, I put my discussion board expectations. And in that I say use some expert resources. So yeah, thank you for that.
She will fuss at you.
I will take points off. I'm not gonna lie. I take points off. I didn't mention, and I meant to mention, and in fact, if one of the POV Dipped in Dreams people could throw the website for snoozing in here, issue number 2 is open for submissions, and it's
4 more days.
Yeah, until July 31st. It's a sunrise beginning of the theme, but definitely speculative. Does one of you want to do better than me to describe what you're expecting this time?
Well, the big thing we want to specify is that we do speculative fiction. So we get a lot of submissions that are written beautifully, but they are completely real life, and we don't do that. So that's not really our specialty. Just make sure if you write that it's speculative, try to follow the theme and try to focus on like the nightmarish aspect, because that's what we're in right now. Basically, we alternate between things. We do a dream issue and then a nightmare issue. So we're not super sticklers on that part. We just want to see good writing that has speculative elements. And so far, a lot of it misses on one or the other. So if you can hit both, we love it.
And so I submitted something that I knew wasn't ready, and I paid for a review, and I loved my review. I just thought it was such good advice. So I'm working on it, but it's also not nightmarish enough. But there you go. We'll see what happens.
You're writing nightmare.
Well, I guess I didn't pick up on the nightmare part as well. I had to go a little speculative, but it waited way too long to do that too. So I got amazing advice, and I recommend engaging with this group of people, because I knew one of 4 people was going to give me advice, and I still paid for it because I just really trust these people and how well they edit and what you're doing. So I think this is really going to blossom into something great. So feel excited about submitting, excited about reading it. And their blog, I love so much what you all are doing with describing the genres and having these different posts about the topics that are important to snoozing. And for people in my 532 and my 529, their blog is actually an amazing resource for when I want expert resources. Go there, because they have done the research. And so they are definitely people you can use when you're wanting to describe a genre, or just look at their blog posts and you'll see all the different categories. But I just, I can't believe that we've gotten here after a couple of years, right? And now I'm saying use your blog. It's really great. Yeah. All right, should we do the thing that we came here to do? For the new people, I'm going to actually attach it, because the things are too long to read in the chat today. I'm going to, went to the wrong place. I'm going to attach a document that has some things we're going to read from, and then it has prompts, and then we're going to read from them, talk about the flashes and what we like about them and what makes them, like, draws us in and what takes us out. And then when we get done with that, we'll do a 6-minute writing session. That doesn't sound like much, but and wait till you hear what the people who have been doing this for years can accomplish with it. But don't be intimidated. They were all you at one point. And it's a lot of fun because it shuts down your inner editor and just kind of lets you get some stuff on the page. And hopefully you walk away from these sessions with 2 different things that you can work on that are begun but not finished. We do a lot of flash work around the kind of writing that we're doing for class, and I recommend it. Flash is considered short fiction, like about 1,000 words or less typically, although a lot of places define it differently. And that flash work for people, especially who are writing novels, I think is really important to keep your skin in the game. It's a chance to publish elsewhere, so that when you're going out with a big manuscript and you have a query letter in your bio, you can be like, oh, I've published in these places. Someday I'll have published in Snoozing if I keep trying. But that gives you a chance to show an agent that you are publishing, or if you're trying to go to an independent publishing house, again, that you understand a little bit about the publishing world and that you're making that effort. And for any of you who've been in the MFA program, you at least have to prove that you've tried to publish something. And considering the MFA is, a manuscript length work, then, doing these shorter things gives you an opportunity to push things out to places, and then you've met that requirement. You can read along and pick up what you can. Lori, you can turn on the closed captioning. Is that what it's called, Sarah? Yeah, if you turn on the closed captioning, you don't have to listen to us be robots, and it'll do a pretty good job. Maybe I can turn on the closed captioning. Hold on.
I always have it turned on.
And sometimes you get funny words,
Yes.
but it's better than nothing.
There we go. Does that help, Lori?
Oh, you did transcript.
You can't see it on the screen?
No. So you have to go
You
to,
set up transcript. I set up captions by hitting more. And
Yeah, I
then
just hit show captions, and that's what's going on at the bottom.
yeah,
I
but
think
it
it's
only
by
shows,
person.
the chat turned into a transcript for me.
no, when you turn on captions, I think it's only for your screen. 'Cause
Right.
I've had it on all along.
But how did I just get transcripts going? Now I have like captions at the bottom of the screen and the chat went away and it's
That's view full trend, more, hold on.
I'll let you guys work on the technology, and I'm going to
Sorry.
move forward with what we're doing today. Were you all able to open up the document that I sent you?
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody want to read what I sent?
I can.
Okay. Thank you, Randall.
Ghosts We Love by Matt Barrett. The first thing we didn't know about ghosts until we met our granddaddy 6 months after his funeral was they feel whatever temperature it was the day they died. And since our granddaddy died in a blizzard, he stood there shivering despite visiting us on a 90-degree day in June. The second thing we didn't know about ghosts was they wear the same clothes they had on when they died and not the ones they were buried in, which was a shame because our grandmother died wearing nothing but a thin hospital gown that didn't quite close all the way when she walked. And the third thing we didn't know about ghosts until they showed up at our house one day was they fixate on whatever final thought they had, no matter how many times you try to steer the conversation in another direction. Our granddaddy's final thought, as he stood there shivering in big leather boots and big leather gloves and denim on the rest of him, was whether he still should have rolled the trash bin to the end of his driveway despite how much it was snowing. Probably should have, he said, but the roads were closed. That truck still would have come. And our grandmother, in her hospital gown and sweat beads on her forehead, repeated her final thought as a question we were supposed to answer. Is any of this real? Any of what? Any of this? Our grandparents came to see us on that hot June day, mostly to complain about how little they saw eye to eye now that they were ghosts. Our granddaddy couldn't keep up with our grandmother's depth of thought, she claimed. And our grandmother couldn't answer a simple goddamned question about the trash, our granddaddy said. But if there were a fourth thing we didn't know about ghosts, it was that they miss being a child. If you asked a ghost, or at least these two, what they'd do to come back as themselves, they'd say nothing. To return as an 80-year-old, hell no. 60, 50, 25, nuh-uh. But if you took them to the creek behind your house, a few miles from where they both grew up as neighbors, they'd stop worrying about the trash and how one defines reality and tell you about the time they ran from home and found each other digging for crayfish beneath the dirt and stones. And if you gave them time to look at each other, you'd think they were seeing the ghosts of themselves from all those years ago, how they were suddenly shy, a little timid to hold each other's hands. And you'd feel like you were seeing something you shouldn't, a part of themselves they'd buried while still alive, which led us to the fifth thing we didn't know about ghosts, that they aren't afraid to be seen if you're willing to stand there and look.
Thanks, Randall. Wow, right? What pulled you in? What were some of your favorite parts of this piece? And Kathleen, I will attach it again in the chat for you.
For me, it was the
It starts right off like into the story. There's no like leading in or foofiness. It's just we jump right into the first thing.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about ghosts, right?
Mhm.
And these are literal ghosts?
Are you asking or telling?
I raised my voice at the end. I'm asking.
Well, they say a specific date, or well, not a specific date, but a specific month. It seems like literal to me.
Yeah,
But
it does, doesn't it? Could they be both literal and figurative?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of times you think about how you regret the fact that the way you remember someone is the last way that you saw them, and you know that really matches this idea that they're exactly how they were when they died. But I think it's can definitely be a mix of both, which is one of the things I like the most about this.
I agree. I mean, because we're walking through a story of the experience, right? We have all these ways that the author's showing us this moment where it's hot for them, it's cold for granddaddy, but then it's also hot for the grandmother, right? Like we're having the story and we're there and we're present, we're in the moment. But then there's a shift, right? And so Barrett takes us, but if there's a fourth thing we didn't know about ghosts, it was that they miss being a child. And you're like, that's interesting, right?
I think that part made me think of like when I'm trying to be careful, but like we want to remember them younger or etc. as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, for many of us, our grandparents, even, they were never children, right? They were who they were as our grandparents, and that's something that we love about them. But who they were as grandparents and who they were as children are not the same thing, right? And so, how does Barrett take us from like, so the concept, right? All they can talk about is the last thought they had. And that, as Randall was saying, is such a great way for how we see people. We remember them as they were when we knew them. So how does Barrett take us back into it's like grandparents we wouldn't know?
So it's strange because I thought of this poem more not as, I mean, not as real ghosts, but as the memory of ghosts. And I think it's partially because my grandparents died at a very old age. So I mean, my grandmother only died a few years ago. She was 101. So I really got to know them both from a child perspective and an adult perspective. But they all talked about their childhood so much that for me, seeing them as children wasn't a problem. And especially when they would contrast, 1915 and 1980 and 1815 and talk about it. So I thought of this more of the sort of, on the anniversary of my grandparents' deaths, all 17 of us cousins always get together and we talk. And I saw this more as sort of the same thing.
Yeah, so that's a strong personal connection to this. And if we take that personal connection and step back and look at the writing that's happening, do we tangibly go into their childhood? Does Barrett take us there, and how if he does?
I think so, because digging, I mean, we get the specific activities that we imagine them having done when they were children.
Yeah, so let's take it exactly, Sarah. And so let's take it to this last bit. And what do you make of it? And you'd feel like you were seeing something you shouldn't, a part of themselves they'd buried while still alive, which led us to the fifth thing we didn't know about ghosts, that they aren't afraid to be seen if you're willing to stand there and look. So at a huge figurative level, what's going on with Barrett's story here in those last two lines?
He makes them figurative and literal.
Yes. Let's expand. Does anybody have ideas to expand that?
I kind of saw it like, in a way, we all have ghosts, and if you just take a moment to look into your own, like you'll be able to see them. That was kind of my take of that last line.
Yeah, really nice, Fernanda. Really nice. Yeah, also getting to know your grandparents while they are alive. And yes, so with what Fernanda said and what Lisa added, let's just flip the coin a little bit and say, okay, now we're becoming the grandparents. Put yourself in the place of the people that became the ghosts. And the question is, what have you buried while you're still alive? And so I will take us into the prompt with that. And I'm going to read through the prompt and talk to you a little bit about getting started. And for the 6 minutes of writing, especially for those of you who are new here, when we do the 6 minutes of writing, if you don't know what to say, just like write over and over again the same thing, like, I don't know, or I don't know what to say, or I don't know what to write, or whatever. And your brain will quickly get bored and give you something to write. You could write by hand. I think I said this in the email that I sent out, but I like to encourage you all to write by hand in these sessions if you can. It's fine if you're on a keyboard, but you will engage both hemispheres of your brain writing by hand. Whereas if you're on your keyboard, for some reason, it doesn't engage both hemispheres of your brain. And I have an article that talks about this if you need it. But the idea is that you have more access to even more creativity because you're engaging more of your brain when you do it. So I will walk through the prompt and ask for your questions, and we will get writing. Matt Barrett equates ghosts with the part of ourselves that we give up in phases of our life. Yes, Lisa, I'll email that to you. As our identity changes over time, we give up parts of ourselves. Some parts we love and some we're glad to leave behind. Write about the ghosts in your past, things you don't do anymore, and try to figure out what unflinchingly gazing at these ghostly parts of you could mean. And that's the big, huge thing. Like, kind of ignore that last sentence. All you really have to do is write about things you don't do anymore. But one of the things that could be going on in your subconscious is to think about, what does it mean when you leave things behind, right?
This reminds me of having given up.
What do you
The-
mean?
This story.
Is it one
Having-
that I've shared with you before and I can't remember? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Having given
Having
up
given
this,
up
then this.
self-worth, yeah.
Yeah. Just took me a second. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a theme that people write about, and I love that it's been approached in a completely different way by Barrett than it is by us, right? I mean, by having been given up.
No.
All right, are there any questions from anybody before we try to get started? And again, the most important thing is that writing happens. And so even if you don't write exactly to this prompt, I'd just love for you to get a chance to write this morning, whatever you got inspired by reading this work and being here. Okay, and then I'll just mute everybody so that it's really quiet while we're writing, and I will set the timer. So you ready?
Nope.
Go ahead. Did somebody say no? Okay.
I did. That's okay.
Okay, go ahead and start writing. You have about a minute left. Okay, try to wrap things up, please. I'm so sorry I was eating breakfast in your ear and then realized I wasn't muted. All right, and then we'll look for volunteers to read back their writing. And when we do, we often will put like amazing phrases or whatever in the chat as we're going, like, oh my God, I love that. Is anybody excited by what you got? Does anybody want to share? Jenna?
No.
Yeah. Oh, this is.
Wow, like 5 people at once.
You did, yeah.
But Jenna volunteered and she's new, and I'm saying go brave person.
That's true.
Okay. I don't play anymore. I used to be carefree and tease and flirt and feel sassy and sexy and alive. Somehow becoming an adult, an employee, a mentor, a responsible tax paying, bill paying, number crunching, solver of everyone's problems crossed me over into this desolate, dry place where my sexuality and liberty went to die. What happened to me? I used to look at my mom and dad who never touched and always yelled as something I would never ever be. Yet here I am in the desert. Here I am in the desert. I can feel my partner's skin come alive in an accidental graze. And I promise myself I'll bite his ear or kiss his shoulders, the expanse, the strength of them with soft, wet lips. But I sit across the room in the desert and eat my dinner, browsing the screen in silence.
Nice.
I
I
agree
love-
with Suzanne's. Oh, Elise, I interrupted you.
I said I love the desert repeating metaphor. That's fantastic. And I love how true picture of adult life that was. You know, it was sad, but it was also beautiful, but it was also real. And I really loved it.
Thank you.
A fun direction it went was sort of why those things got left behind, which I think is fair. And I'm with Suzanne, those lists were amazing, really good. What else? Did anything else draw us in? Anybody have anything else to say? We'll move a little fast just because there's a lot of us, and I hope everybody who wants to read can read. Yes, chef's kiss for those lists. I agree. We do a lot of chef's kiss. Go.
Sorry, I just want to add on to the desert metaphor. I love that there was like a I can't think of the word, but I love that there's like desert, but whenever you mention like youth, there's wet kisses and like involved. So it was a nice parallel. Great work.
Very nice. Great observation. Anyone else?
Can I read though?
You can go after her. Just say, Jenna, just be sure that you scroll through the chat because there's a lot more comments of just what we loved in your piece.
Thank you.
Okay, great, great. Okay, Sarah.
Okay. In the beginning, the hugs and kisses were never there, home to home, until I met someone that made me perfectly safe in her arms. In the beginning, I feared everything, everywhere. A bench, a Shih Tzu dog chasing me and biting me, the bullies at school, the demons at home, until she held me and the embrace was all I could focus on. Yet I was ripped away from her. I lost the comfort in the embrace and the trust of safety and gained an entirely new level of fear of abandonment, even though she didn't abandon me. I lost the desire or willingness to let anyone into the parts of me that she touched. I lost 20 years of that until now. Now I can love. Sometimes even when I don't want to. I can love those who don't want to be loved. I rarely feel safe in a full embrace, but I offer the safety to others if they allow it. What will happen when I return face to face with she? Will parts of me I thought I didn't have anymore show up as though they never left for a second?
Whoa. I mean, especially with context, extra woo. What did we love? Other than Suzanne's never left for a second, right? Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I do like the idea that the question at the end kind of makes us think about, are these actually ghosts, or are they residual elements of ourselves, Like it's so easy to think that somebody that we used to be is gone forever, but then something unexpected can, reawaken that. So
Very nice. I agree. Absolutely, Randall.
I like the transference of fears. So there wasn't a moment when you're not scared or not fearful, but the fearful, what you're scared of or feared for is what switches.
Interesting. And your repetition was really fun in the way it changed, because sometimes it'd be like until, or now, until she. And so like it would shift subtly the way you were repeating. And I really like the way that moved through the piece. Anything else that I'm missing that somebody wants to say? Bravo. Who's next?
Can I go next?
Sure, Lisa.
So for those that just joined, I'm trying to tie things into a work I'm working on, which is about dragons and shifters, and the girl just discovered she's got magic powers.
And you reminded me, other than that, you wanted to give us context, which is great. We do have a rule, like we like to make excuses about our work, and Elisa wasn't doing that. She was giving context. But if you're making excuses, you're only allowed to say it's brilliant. You can say it's brilliant in any tone you want. You can be like, oh, it's brilliant. Or you can be like, oh, it's brilliant. Whatever you want. And context is fine. Thank you, Elisa, for the reminder.
Yep. And
let's hear what you got.
And I went in a completely different way because I had nothing to write about sort of what we said. So I just wrote about people changing.
Okay.
Issa plodded through the palace, swinging her hands in time with her thoughts. Occasionally, she lifted her palm up to her face, looking closely for signs of the white light that had lit up in sparkles when she touched the hatchling's eggs. Nothing, just a normal, boring human hand attached to a normal, boring human arm to a normal, boring human torso. Human, not a shifter. She stopped at the Mountain Deer Head on Fuchsia Street and gave it her normal daily apology. Sorry you're dead. She reached out, kissed her fingers, and touched his face. Turning, she saw people gaggling behind her. What? She asked. Did you think he would come back to life? Just his head? She moved off towards the throne room, sad that people were looking differently at her now.
I don't buy into the sad that people were looking differently at her now, but everything else, yes. Because she seems like the kind who would be just like, what? get over yourselves and go on being awesome and awesome. She is awesome, right?
She is very awesome.
Yeah. Fernanda, I agree. Did you think he would come back to alive? Just his head? What else? I liked her looking for the white light in her palm, as if that would happen more, that it would transfer somehow. Suzanne, you must know the story. Yeah. Okay. What else?
I love that the change is very subtle, in the sense that you're not outright being like, oh, this is about change exactly. And it's very you really did a great job at like embedding it into your own story. And I don't know, it was just really nice to hear that like change can happen in all kinds of worlds. It's not just a human thing. And it was hilarious. So yes, I also hope it makes it into your story.
Yeah, probably will in some variation. But yeah, every time she walks past the deer head, she bops it on the face and apologizes for being there.
That's funny. And for the new people, when you hear them saying, oh, we hope it makes it in your story and all those things, it's because over in POV Dipped in Dreams, people share manuscripts and they're reading each other's work and they're familiar with each other's work because there's all kinds of energy happening over there, which I love. Absolutely love. Good job, Elisa. Thank you. Who would like to go next? I know, Suzanne, you seemed pretty close early on. How are you feeling now?
Oh, get ready for Ghostly.
Oh, no. Okay, I'm ready.
So, what's it like being, dead? Rosalie finished for M. Yeah, and like a ghost. Em fiddled with the strap of her backpack as they walked, trying not to stare too obviously at her best friend's translucent form. Rosalie shrugged, her movement sending a slight ripple through her ethereal body. It's not that different, really. I still feel like me, just with fewer things I can do. She reached out to pluck a leaf from a nearby tree, her fingers passing right through it. See? Can't even enjoy the simple things anymore. Em's heart ached for a friend. You don't have to come to school with me, if it makes you feel left out or anything. Rosalie scoffed. And do what? Watch daytime television at your house? No thanks. Besides, someone's got to keep an eye on you. I managed a small smile, but it faded quickly. I'm sorry, Rosalie. I wish I could do more to help you. Hey, babe, don't worry about it. I'm just glad you're a necromancer. That's pretty cool, right? A short, awkward laugh escaped from Em's lips. I didn't even know I was one. I don't know how to do any of this stuff. I'm not even sure if I can see other ghosts besides you. Rosalie tilted her head, considering. Huh. Guess your powers are pretty split then. But hey, at least you got me. Em nodded, trying to push down the guilt that turned in her stomach. But can you see other spirits? Like, are there others around us right now? And that's as far as I got.
Well, cliffhanger.
In the chat, I'm going, I almost expect Rosalie to ask, can you see that guy over there? And then you took it there. I was like, woohoo! I was very excited. Very excited. You were going where I wanted you to go for sure, which doesn't mean anything. I'm one reader, but yeah. What do we love?
It reminded me a lot in Lucifer when the sister comes back. I can't remember the name, and she's the friend of one of the forensic scientists, and she thinks she's had a childhood ghost, but she's really one of the gods. I can't remember the name.
Are you talking about the show Lucifer?
Yeah, one of the best shows of all time. Yes.
Seen it yet, but I'll add it to the list.
So funny. It's so funny. But I like that the ghost is with her and wants to go to school, doesn't want to go to school, like a real, it's like a one step of that imaginary friend concept.
Mhm.
So
Funny. Yeah. Just hadn't thought of it that way. Both Jenna and Lisa and I all three of us, we're commenting on how strong that narrative voice is. And I also want to add to that, your reading is just going up notches and notches. Like you read it so well.
It's from all the practice every other Saturday.
Right. Well, and you guys are reading aloud in the other sessions too, right? So every week that I'm not doing this, Suzanne or somebody runs a liminal session, right? And then Thursdays, Randall, is that right? You guys do Excalibur?
Mhm.
And I haven't made it to Excalibur yet, but I think you guys read in there as well.
Sometimes, yeah, it just depends on what we're doing that week.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so there's all these opportunities to practice reading aloud and to do your writing. And yeah, it's an energetic place to be. Good job, Suzanne. Thank you. Okay, I'm caught up with who I saw waving hands. Who else would like to read?
I'll go.
Kevin. Okay, Randall, and then Kevin's got his thumb up after Randall. So
I'm sorry, I've got to go. There was just a massive bomb go off in Israel. I got to go check on my family.
okay, sorry.
The spirit was loud for a long time, its banshee wails piercing the gloom at each wound and bruise. I would watch as it determined the best course of action in its addled days. The pinprick in its chest marked scar tissue, a pencil mark on Olympus Mons. His fingers worried at the wound until it bled, splattering crimson vitae on the pale white skin. A groan rumbled from the infinite darkness as the prying digits stole their way inside, penetrating the flesh with a ripping release. Ragged breath marked each pull as fingers became hand, then two, shredding the healed space anew. Fatty tissue and organs spilled stinking to the floor as the ghost showed me his beating heart, tar black and frostbitten. It sighed in regret and curled up to sleep on its steaming self-evisceration. I haven't heard from it in a long while. I don't think it cries anymore.
Oh, they both feel like throwing up, and that's amazing. All right, so we've got goosebumps from Suzanne, the stinking to the floor, both Lisa and I loved. The curled up to sleep, I loved also because it was so unexpected because it was such a, like, it seemed like it was such a traumatic moment, right? Or long moment because you start off in the beginning just screaming and screaming and screaming, right? I wonder where the screaming ends in this. What else, everybody? I'm doing all the talking.
I can't type fast enough for your talking, but I really enjoyed the descriptions of the organs. They were creepy.
Visceral enough to make you want to puke. I think I was doing okay until you brought in the sense of smell, actually. And then if anybody smelled awful before, like, oh, FFAL awful, yeah, there you go. Anything else other than that? As usual, Randall, amazing. Also, it doesn't scream anymore. Like, so weirdly that this black tar frostbitten heart ghost creature has curled up, which is like a cozy feeling, and doesn't scream anymore, almost like in being in eviscerating itself, I guess, but I mean the self is also the self, right? Yeah. Somehow it's been reborn. Is that it all?
Yeah.
So I picked up on a little bit of it.
Yeah, I guess for me it was kind of like, the process of getting the nasty out of yourself, like
Yeah.
taking the things that have built up and figuring out how to make it stop.
Very nice. But they're also not gone. And that's, I think, what I like the most about it is that trauma may find space in our lives, kind of like grief, but it doesn't go away.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I really liked that little sense. Like you weren't saying just because it got outside of you, it was gone, because it wasn't.
No,
That's what I
it's
heard.
cozy. It's cozy, and the fear of backslide is always, there, and it can scab up, but you can rip a scab off, and then you're just back to screaming and pus and black.
Nice, Kevin. Especially, I love this idea. I don't know if this is what you're seeing, but because it's cozy, it's almost slightly more dangerous. Is that what you're saying?
Mhm.
Yeah. Wow. Nice. We all end up in some deep places here. But also
Her
that's what's so fun about this.
name is,
Sorry.
Shame researcher, and she says joy is the most vulnerable emotion because we're
Oh,
always waiting for it to, like, the floor to come out from underneath us. And so, like, that's kind of what Kevin was, when he was saying that, is kind of what made me think of that.
that was really relevant. Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Now I'm gonna think about all my joy and how I'm about to have it ripped out from under me. No problem. That was really great. Thank you. And Kevin, are you ready? You want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Who would have known that the Nissan Rogue would be added to the collection? By then, you knew that separation would associate the ride with the person. Plymouth Voyagers, filled with firsts, CRVs were for people who said things like, the last time I committed suicide. Except for that time in college where the person you went around with didn't drive and didn't have a car, but would swoosh along in Chuck Taylors popping out of harem pants filled with assonance.
Harem
Wait.
pants filled with assonance?
Can you go back to the line, the last time I committed suicide? Read that little part again.
Yeah, Plymouth Voyagers filled with firsts and CRVs were for those who said things like the last time I committed suicide.
Yeah, I'm with 100% and dangs on that line. Filled with people who say that, which is different than people who sort of, I mean, I know they probably did it, but do you know what I mean? Like, I love that it's a type of person who probably isn't serious about that, right? I don't know, man.
Gonna keep his ambiguity.
Yeah. Kevin has a superpower in ambiguity anyway, so I love that. Am I reading this correctly? And I love that I have an author right here, so I get to ask this question, that this is about in some ways, the cars we leave behind and what they tell about us about people.
Hmm.
Like, the Ford Pinto that who knows where it is
Yeah.
now, but that I drove in high school.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
what did your exes drive?
Oh, fascinating. You'd have to pay attention to cars. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or,
Like, I'd be like, one
describe
of,
your history through
yeah,
dogs that you had or kitchen
yeah,
tables or
yeah.
Mhm.
And why they're gone. It's like, did you wreck a car? Did you try to commit suicide in a car? Which I guess it should trigger warn that. Or, did you just upgrade? I love it. Okay, I've done all the talking again. Who else has anything to say about Kevin's awesomeness? There's a lot in the chat and it's mostly like, dang, oh, so we liked it. And which is pretty unspecific. And one of the reasons it's fun to type in the things that are resonating with us in the chat, that's a really great practice for when you're doing peer review, right? If something made you go, dang, and so good, right? And so like for me, harem pants filled with assonance, I'll probably think about that all day because I don't know what that means, but I really like the way it sounds. And so, which is especially because of the word assonance in there, all the more, right? Yeah, so I think like when something really provokes you like that, those are great opportunities to compliment an author on something that drew you in. And that's a big part of doing constructive criticism, right? Finding what you love, leaving the things that aren't working as well for you, and then ending with what you love. Good job, Kevin. That was great. So of the people we have left, does anybody want to read?
I'll go.
Okay, thank you.
She runs out into the courtyard, her ponytails lopsided from all the running and playing. The rain this year brought along with it families of frogs that have found a home in between the sheets of grass. She used up her life savings, a full $20, to buy a magnifying glass. Her own glasses weren't enough. They missed the details, the important ones at least. She bends forward, hugging her knees as she prepares to explore this new world.
I love the magnifying glass. How many people had one as a kid? No? Okay, yeah. Yeah. It just was such an important part for me of being a kid because trying to understand our world better meant going microscopic, right? Well, I mean, I guess it's not truly microscopic, but it felt like it as a kid. Of course, that's the bad way to find out what magnifying glasses can do to ants, right? By accident. Yeah. Or
Yeah,
on
by
purpose.
accident.
Oh yeah, the people didn't get an accident.
Randall's like, yeah, by accident. It would be
No, I
for
think
me.
I really like the idea though of the life savings thing, because when you're a kid, those things feel so impactful. Like you spend so long saving this, what's ultimately a pittance, but to you it feels like, you know, you have like a king's ransom, and you use it for something, and because of that you treasure it in a way, like it sticks in your mind. You like, I still remember the things specifically that I bought as a kid because of how much I had to work to get to them. So that really resonated with me.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh. I put mine in the chat. This mattered to me so much. What else? Both Susan and I said the sheets of grass. Jessie Doll from Toy Story 2. Really? I was an adult when that movie came out. The homey feel for those frogs, like that somehow you had converted this natural world into something that we understand as domestic in a way by saying sheets of grass. I don't know. I just love that. It's particularly nice. Anything else? All right, so we have two people who haven't read. No pressure to read. This is both your first times here, I believe. For sure, Lisa, it is. Kathleen, is this your first time here? Yeah, is it your
Oh,
first time
sorry.
here?
I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's a first.
Yeah, well, welcome. Yeah, you were signed in just a little bit later, so we didn't get a chance to say hi and welcome.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah, and a ton of people here have been here, coming here for like years. So, you know, we have a mix of everybody in this group for sure.
Yeah. If it's okay, I wouldn't mind reading.
Yeah, of course. That's what we do.
All right. Well, it's not much, but
It's
Oh, it's
brilliant.
brilliant.
I can't believe I had to do this. I can't believe that I had to let you go. Your green eyes, at first soft to the touch, always brought a light into my life. You became a part of me a long time ago, so small and tender. Mother was not certain that she could keep you. She could never understand why I wanted an animal like you. She was allergic, and her coughs and wheezing would echo the thin halls. She tried to convince me I should not own a precious creature like you. She believed it would bring a decline in my own health that could cause a problem. But as I clutched your body close to mine, I knew I made the right choice. You became part of my world so young to adulthood. As I look back on our days together, I knew you would be a treasure I'd never forget.
Oh, I lost my own green golden-eyed person, or well, fur person. So my heart is just breaking hearing this one.
Thank
There's
you.
a there's a lot in here about the repetition. And yeah, look at Sue's contingent reality. One of the things we talk about in this group is the reality we're all experiencing right now as we're sitting here in Zoom is contingent on anything that's happened in our past. And both Suze and I have this contingent reality of cat experiences. And we're both like, is this a cat? Because to us, you know, we've had this similar heartbreak. So anytime you're writing something, your reader, your audience will come in with whatever they have in their background, and you can't even control how they respond to what you write. But luckily, we got it right. Lisa added a treasure I'd never forget. Yes, allergies are worth our fur babies. Absolutely. I loved the words thin halls when the mother was being described as coughing and having an allergic reaction. The thin halls was actually a glimpse into this person's actual life, like wherever they lived, either had like narrow halls or thin walls that made up these hallway halls. So these glimpses into the narrator's life, who was speaking to the cat, which is the you, right? But also was the first person talking about their experience. We got these little glimpses of what that person's life was like. And that was extra interesting on top of how much we know they love what they were writing about.
Yeah.
Anybody want to add anything?
The thin hall stood out to me as well for a couple of reasons. Like, I think again, it's an interpretation issue, but I see it as two potential meanings of, the halls were thin and that they were claustrophobic and there wasn't space to be free, but also that the walls were thin and there wasn't space to be because there was too much permeation between what the next person needed. And both of those to me are really relatable, especially when it comes to like feelings about pets and memories in general, because there are elements of memories we hold on to, but we don't always hold on to the whole thing. So I don't know, that phrase really stood out to me as well.
Yeah, nice, Randall. Very nice. Okay, thank you, Kathleen. That was great. Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, Suze, you could hear everything everywhere. And Lisa, no pressure. Do you want to read what you got, or you've been working in the chat, so you could also post it in the chat if you typed, and somebody else could read it. Yeah, no problem. No problem. Okay, so let's move on to the next one then, and we will try to keep the pace going up. We'll briefly talk about Birding at the End of the World by Melissa Fitzpatrick. Does anybody want to read it?
I can
I'll read it.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
It's Birding at the End of the World by Melissa Fitzpatrick. It's the end of the world, so she goes looking for birds, just like she always does when she needs to convince herself that it's not really the end, that all is not lost. Like the time she packed up her car and drove out of LA, past the long commute housing developments, past grinning lawyers on billboards, past mile after mile of factory farms, cows crowded on dusty lots, farm workers hunched over rows of lettuce, drove north to the brink of dusk, where she finally stood awestruck at the edge of a field as a silhouetted flock of sandhill cranes glided through the blazing sky, calling each other with their comical rattling cries, floating to the ground like ballerinas as the light slipped from golden to rose to lavender. She hadn't known such abundance still existed in the world, thought it had gone the way of the passenger pigeons, whose migrations, they say, once darkened the skies for hours at a time. When the darkness settled, there were hundreds of cranes gathered at the nighttime roost. Something unclenched as she took her first full breath in a very long time. So now that California is burning again and so much of the news fills her with dread, all she can think to do is grab the dog's leash and head for the park. It's too goddamn hot, and the smoke from the distant fires have turned the afternoon light a peculiar and unsettling orange. But the white-crowned sparrows have arrived right on time, as they are feasting on toyon berries after their long migration. As she tries to take the long view, she tells herself a story about resilience, about the rhythms of nature. Thinks to herself, it's not for nothing that they say hope is the thing with feathers, even though she knows it is slipping away, but still she cannot help it. How she comforts herself this way, how her heart lifts at a flash of a wing, a nest, a migrant bird come back again, and she wonders how much longer this will last.
Thanks for reading that. That was a good reading. All right, what do we love? What are some things that we wish that we had written in this?
I like she uses different types of birds, not just picking one. And focus
Yeah,
on.
nice. Yeah.
I liked the fact that in the first sentence, it talks about it's the end of the world. So she does this like she always does when she needs to convince herself that it's not really the end. And it gives you it helps you understand that, this isn't literally the end of the world. This is like a mental space that the person goes to, that, they convince themselves again and again. And anybody who's had anxiety knows exactly what that feeling's like, that you constantly think it's the end of the world. So
Yeah, the doom feeling, right?
yeah.
Yeah, so she does what she always does, which is so fantastic. I agree, Lisa. I love the allusion to Dickinson in this. And what does that allusion do for us? I mean, what does it mean when we bring in obviously identifiable allusion to authors that people are going to recognize, right? Like hope is the thing with feathers. I mean, I double checked it before when I put this in here. I was like, that's Dickinson, right? And it was. So what does it do when an author refers us to another author? What does it mean for the piece like that?
It adds a layer if the
Absolutely.
reader catches it.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, she's not working on just the literal level. Yeah, and it is a little Easter egg. I agree. That's exactly what I call them too. Yeah, and the Easter egg might even encourage us to go read Dickinson's poem, and then maybe we think about the poem in terms of this person's flash piece. And if hope is the thing with feathers, then if she goes birding anytime she needs to convince herself it's not really the end of the world, we have something circular happening, right? That she's looking for hope. And she's literally looking for feathers, which I think is a fun play on whether, these poems or anything are literal or whether we're looking for something figurative as well. Anything else that stands out that you just love?
I have a question about, maybe I'm jumping ahead, but can we use a line of this story in our writing?
Yeah, absolutely. If you were to actually try to publish this, you might consider ways that you would make sure you were either attributing so that somebody knows it's not your work, or you would change it enough to become your own words just based off the idea of what the author wrote. But for these 6 minutes, absolutely just grab a line and go for it.
Okay.
And one of the things that I love about this, for me anyway, when the person feels like it's the end of the world, they definitely turn to nature. And then when she talks about the sandhill cranes being in the same abundance as the passenger pigeon who has gone extinct, there's a tension and a question happening there. It seems like nature persists, but then again, we know that a part of nature that was so abundant, not even, barely 100 years ago, doesn't exist anymore. So, like, what does that mean? What can we, and I'm asking that rhetorically. Like, when you put these things juxtaposed together, where it looks like nature ever always persists, but also we have proof of nature not persisting, I think she's trying to expose the really complex nature of the world we're living in now, right? Okay, so let's move on to the prompt. So Melissa Fitzpatrick thinks about the end of the world in many ways. And then, of course, it's the always thing we talked about. So what events in your life, and it could be your character's life too. I just write this way, but it's always you or your character. So keep that in mind. Anytime you come here, you can write about your fictional characters. What events in your life have felt like the end of the world? Yet you're still alive today, or your character is. Think about the relentless nature of a painful human condition. And then a concern about global warming, something she's talking about with the California fires, and the way that beauty insists on breaking through. So follow these thoughts for yourself. And that's a question. Like, I want you to follow these thoughts for yourself. What do you have to say that is in conversation with Fitzpatrick, but is also your own? And again, maybe what you have to write isn't in conversation with Fitzpatrick. That's fine. This prompt is just to get you getting some words down on the page. But I mean, we have concerns about our world. And that's what I'm asking you to think about. And I'll leave it at that so that it's general enough to give you something to write. I will mute all of us, including me, so you don't have to listen to my breakfast. And you can go ahead and write. You have about a minute left. Come on back. Let's see what you got. We have greatly reduced in numbers, so it'll be easy for us all to read.
Mine is weird.
Oh.
Brilliant, but weird.
Brilliantly weird. Do you want to kick us off?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
And I got to find it. Oh, I wrote it on your prompt. Okay. As I learn to drive a car, I try to stay in the middle of the white lines, directly in front of me or on each side of me. But I'm instructed to counterintuitively to try to take the long view, and my driving balances out, stays in the lines. On the other hand, I tell myself a story about resilience, about the rhythms of nature, how the robins come back every spring, signifying death passing and new things coming to eventually pass. The first time I heard the term a murder of crows, it took my breath away. Do crows murder? They actually will, but they prefer something recently dead. Is it because they're lazy? Do I continually take my eyes off the long view because I'm lazy? Or is it because parts of me have been murdered over the years that even the spring robins can't bring back? I drive my car to the right of the road, starting to yell, curb, 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 yet I don't steer away from it. The end of the world. How many times does that have to happen before it really happens? Will a murder of crows bring it about?
Wow, that ending really feels like you're arriving where you were going. I'm really expecting Randall to say something about it. I really am. Am I wrong?
Well, like for me, I liked the idea of, like you played with the idea of, contemplating why crows prefer something dead than to kill. And it, to me, like I'm still wrapping my head around how that interacts with the end, because, it's leaving me with this question of, the crows don't want, you said, are they going to be what ends it? They don't want to end it. So, it almost becomes like, is the end going to be a reluctant thing? Is it going to be intentional? And it really, to me, because of that, the idea that you carried forward about the word murder and what it means was, profound, I guess is the best way to say it.
You did not disappoint. That's what I thought you'd do. Thank you. Other thoughts? Yes, you can post it in the chat. No problem. Oh, your piece? Yeah. While we're finishing up with Sarah, go ahead. And one of us can read it, Lisa. Preferably one of our good readers. Anything else on Sarah's? Sarah, that you circled around crows and murder and what murder means versus already dead and the parts that have died and the parts that have been murdered. Like, you're doing some amazing things. And this is a piece that I think you should return to and fine tune, because you're onto something. And of course, in 6 minutes, you're not all the way there yet, but it's definitely worth not abandoning. Don't murder it. Good job. Thank you. Okay, Lisa's working on a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I would request that Randall reads it, unless I know I'm putting everything on you today, Randall, but you're our top reader.
That's
So-
okay. I don't mind.
Okay, thanks.
The unknown eats away at me as I indulge in tiny cakes iced with spun sugar that melt in my mouth. I can feel the axe hit my neck as I sip tea with floral undertones and notes of bitterness despite 3 sugar cubes. My reckless outcry landed me here. I'm afraid but determined. If the beastly king wishes me dead, then I will be dead. But I wasn't dragged to the dungeon and chained like an animal. Instead, I was escorted to a great room and served a small luncheon. If this is my last meal, then I shall enjoy it. But admittedly, there's a small seed of hope churning in my belly. Perhaps I'll survive after all.
Ooh. Knowing that it's a Beauty and Beast retelling already sets, like, I'm like, ooh, what's next? What do we love? We have it right here.
The first sentence is like chef's kiss. Good. I love that sentence.
Nice. I really love the second sentence. Agree with you on the first one, but kept me going on the second one. I can feel the axe hit my neck as I sip tea with floral undertones and notes of bitterness despite 3 sugar cubes. And I'm like, we learn so much in that line, right? And we almost know the whole story from that line. And especially that the beast needs to improve his tea, apparently. But I mean, that's just one of the things I noted. What else?
I take the axe hit my neck, and then the reckless outcry landed me here. So like, if an axe hits your neck, then your head lands on the ground. I don't think it was literal, but that's where my mind went.
Yeah, that's a fun play. Randall, I forgot to ask you, what did you love? What was Chef's Kiss about?
Oh,
it?
you're
I
fine.
apologize for that.
I think it's a combination of like the alliteration and also like something about that makes it like almost complements the idea of that taste, like something that's almost too sweet, like it's almost overindulgent, but it's not there. And that, I think it's a combination of the two for me.
And so like unknown eating away complements the melting in the mouth. Is that kind of
Yeah.
okay? Yeah, I agree. Those two things go together really nicely. Great.
I love that, but the second sentence was my favorite as well, because you have the fact that it's bitter, like she's in a bitter situation, but she's really trying to find that sweet spot. She's trying to enjoy all of it, and despite the fact that she has an axe above her neck, a metaphorical axe. But yeah, the second one.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah, really
great,
nice.
Mm-hmm.
Great interpretation. Anything else? I don't want to skip anybody. Okay, thank you, Lisa. That turned out great. Who wants to go next?
I'll go.
Okay.
Hell is an F-150 pickup truck in the winter of 2021, when the traumas of lockdown and a disintegrated friend group have turned the beauty of the Psalms forest into the surface of the moon. The shells of accusations and abandonment hit my position minute by minute, churning my anxiety and depression into a morass of infernal hopelessness. I want to entrench myself in the mud and rot with the more fortunate souls. It is the cries of coward in response to my shell shock, a desire to do the enemy's job for them by way of firing squad, an attempt to erase the consequences of callous betrayal, to sweep another shattered life under the rug like so much broken glass. It is a place with no more tears, for pity and sympathy did not exist in that abyss. Yet 2021 was a time and a place, and flowers bloom again in the psalm.
Oh, did you? I heard Psalms and then I heard Psalm, like the French Psalm.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay. Interesting. So basically, you are metaphorically pulling in the Psalm, like World War I trench warfare, for the experience that happened middle of the coronavirus pandemic isolation. Yeah. Nice. That first line, both Lisa and I are, oh, and Fernanda too. We're all like, yeah. Tell us the words again right after pickup truck.
Let's see. It was hell is an F-150 pickup truck in the winter of 2021 when the traumas of lockdown and a disintegrated friend group have turned the beauty of the Psalms forest into the surface of the moon.
Oh, nice. Really nice. So I love that absolutely. And I want to ask, I don't want to jump in on top of anybody else. Anybody else want to say something before I say more? It just felt very much like this was a more oblique reference to suicide again, and that this is where the warfare that's happening, the person is just tempted to sink into the mud and turn the weapon on themselves, right? Like it's just the very abyss of depression. And that is both hard to read and hear, but also so beautifully written. And then, of course, the nature comes again. Did you make any reference to poppies?
No.
Oh, okay. Because that's what I think of when, poppies in Flanders Field, of course, after World War I. It was because poppies are the kind of plant that comes up in disturbed dirt. And so there were so many poppies because the dirt had been disturbed by the warfare. So, that could be a pretty cool cultural illusion if you were continuing to work on that piece or something of the type.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was beautiful, hard to hear and wonderful all at the same time. And Lisa was pointing to sweet traces of, could you read that line again? Just because I loved it.
Let's see. It is the cries of coward in response to my shell shock, a desire to do the enemy's job for them by way of firing squad, an attempt to erase the consequences of callous betrayal, to sweep another's shattered life under the rug like so much broken glass.
Yeah, very nice. And what I love is when I asked you to read a line again, I had no idea how long your sentences were until I asked you to read them, and then they keep going. So that's something to think about too, the way that especially a mind that's experiencing this darkness might keep on, like not take short breathing sentences, but like roll in that spiral, You inhabit that really well with the length of your sentences. Anything else? It's really great, Randall. Thank you. Who would like to be next?
I'll go.
Thank you.
The phone rings and a robotic voice tells me you're in the hospital. My mind becomes a fun house like the ones we loved going into, but this time I can't seem to find the exit. A crack begins to form underneath my ribs. Each breath draws me further away from you. I want to crawl back inside the corner of the world we built long ago. It now lays abandoned and crumbling. Vines have taken over in the same way I imagined them taking over you. The ground opens its mouth, ready to swallow you whole, but I don't want to let you go.
Wow. I hope that's fiction. Beautiful. Yeah. I like the personification too, Lisa. Okay, what do we love beyond what's in the chat?
I absolutely love the idea of like every breath taking me further from you, that like, when someone that we care about, passes or is close to death, you start to think about how you continue living life and they're still who they were, so I don't know, to me, that was a very profound way to put that.
Yeah, if you could stop breathing, to say what you're saying, Randall, if you could stop breathing, then you could stop time and maybe not lose them, but each breath takes you farther down a chronology away from them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. That hits me in the contingent realities. Thanks, Fernanda. What else? What else do we love? The funhouse mirror, particularly because it's absolutely not fun. So you end up in that house, but I mean, and anybody who's been in one, it's an absolute horror, right? Because you can't find your way out. And so that they even call it a fun house is stupid. But I love that because it wasn't fun, right? I haven't been in one since I was a kid because it was so terrifying. That'd be a good horror piece. But anyway, I'm sure there's a million of them because I don't read horror. I don't know what's there. And then the corner of the world we built, I stuck that in the fun house. You know what I mean? Like somehow if you're going to be trapped in there, there could have been a safe space in there. So I just loved what you were asking my head to do the whole time that you were reading it. You know, there was so much more going on than a straightforward narrative arc. Anyone else? Thanks, Fernanda. Who's next? We have 2 people left, I think. Do either of you want to read of the Ks that are left to read? You'll go, Kevin? Okay.
Sure.
Thanks.
Really? Yeah.
Of course.
Oh, yeah. There's a belief that someone dies twice. Once is corporeal, where the jaw slackens and the bowels loose, and the undertakers scratch up the staircase, evacuating the organ system that no longer needs Krebs cycle oxygen. The other is after the last utterance of someone's name. In the beginning, there was the word, and it was good. Isaac means laughter, and it was almost killed on a mountain. A goat took his place, but it's unclear what its name was. The word knows, perhaps, and maybe it's included in the recitation. Aaron A. Aronson with 1 A and then 2.
Oh, I'm writing that down. Aaron A. Aronson with 1 A and then with 2. Oh,
So I get all the biblical references, but I don't understand the last line, sadly.
well, in the beginning was an A, right?
Yeah, just the book of John, and as the former English teacher, the word being good holds power, I suppose. And so if there is the idea that someone's truly dead after their name's forgotten for forever, maybe it'd be nice to think that there's just this record of all of the names sort of on repeat, like the movie Film Line.
And if they were alphabetical, Aaron with 2 A's would be first, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, 1 A and then I don't know.
Well, like if you do
Yeah.
1A and then
Yeah.
say somebody came
Aaron,
ahead of
yeah.
Aaron, yeah.
Yeah.
So then they get 2 A's because they want to still be first. I don't know. I love the idea that the record of names could include the goat, which I don't know why I thought it was a sheep, but even so.
Scapegoat, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, except for, so I spent a lot of time, I spent almost 2 years in Turkey, and the festival of sacrifice is about that same moment, but they sacrifice sheep. And that's probably where I've got the idea. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Have you read Derrida on scapegoats?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like him, but
No? What about Barth's?
I like him a lot better on the Fuzzy Bubbles. That's my favorite one. Foam, I think it is. The Luxury of Foam, or I can't remember what it's called. No, Derrida, I feel like, is a bully because he's like, language is going to mean whatever I say it means, because if I dig down far enough, I can find a meaning I want it to have. So anyway, he's big on scapegoats, right? Yeah. Anybody else? Because I'm just babbling at this point. I've been on Zoom for 3 hours already. Okay, Kevin, I love that you blow us away and that always something super thoughtful is happening underneath it. And the best thing about these 6-minute ones is that I just need you to just send them to me because I can't think through them in the time it takes to try to do it here. because there's so much
Yes,
going
sir.
on.
There's a ram.
Well, a ram could be either a goat or a sheep, right?
Yeah.
There we go.
Male, just the male version of.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't know what a male goat would, oh, maybe a billy goat, but that's an American thing. Whatever. It was awesome, Kevin. Thank you. Kathleen, do you want to read what you got, or are you skipping this time?
I'd rather skip it if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody is forced to read in these groups. Awesome. This was an amazing session. When I pick these pieces, I kind of picture what's going to happen, and none of this is what I pictured. So that always makes me happy. Like the morning's different than I expected. I don't do it next week, but I need to look at a calendar because I have no idea. Hello, puppy. August 10th is the next time I plan on hosting this. Same bad time, same bad channel. The Zoom link always remains the same. So if you got in here today, that one will work. We send out reminders on Slack and we send out reminders in Discord. I don't always remember to email the class because I'm who I am, but if I remember, I will. But I just am who I am. So I'm beginning to try to embrace my own limitations. Any questions for me before we head off into the atmosphere?
Thanks for hosting as always.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I appreciate you being here. Okay, everybody have a great weekend.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye all.
Bye.